Daniel Ricciardo is back for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo has returned to Formula One, replacing Nyck de Vries with immediate effect. I don't feel like we've had any news, Tommy, anywhere near this level of news this year. Finally, we get some.
Apologies to Nyck de Vries, because obviously, this is the hype and excitement that Formula One's fans have needed. And it's a shame for Nick that he's lost his seat. But oh my word, we've been starving of any kind of silly season spice, if you like, this season, and no real major news. And this has been an absolute bombshell. And like you say, it's gone from reports in the Dutch media to this news is going to be announced any second, and we're recording it now, and by the time you're listening to this, it will be official. Absolutely insane.
I just want to take this moment
to gloat.
to absolutely gloat. Now, some of you will say a broken clock is right twice a day.
This was done in February, this prediction. I went back and found it. I posted it on our Twitter account. I'm sure our lovely video editor will play a clip for you now.
If someone was to lose their seat, I think that Nyck de Vries could lose his race seat to Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, spicy. And ta-da! You predicted this in February, and this is when Nyck de Vries seemed like the most hyped man. I got bought into, I predicted him ahead of Yuki because I got bought into the whole, he's so good and he's so experienced and he's really hardworking and all this kind of stuff, but he's not been good. Yeah, he was very hyped at this point, and you said that he would be replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. Not even just the fact that you said he'd lose his seat first, the fact that you said Daniel Ricciardo would replace him, which I never saw happening, because I thought Daniel Ricciardo would not take the downgrade, because for me, it is a little bit embarrassing that he left Red Bull for a new venture and now he's wound his way back to the team that he pretty much, not quite because it was HRT, but the Red Bull junior team that he started pretty much with his career with. So, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening.
Now, let's ask the question, did Nyck de Vries deserve to keep his seat? And we actually put that to you on social media. Tommy, you have the results of the poll.
I do, and it is literally changing from 50-50 and then going in favour of yes, no, yes, no. This is quite divisive. It is savage that Nyck de Vries has been booted already. We've seen his teammate Yuki Tsunoda get a lot more time after having, you could argue, just as bad of a season.
Well, we asked everyone else. Why don't we ask ourselves as well, Tommy? I mean, you've kind of posed that question. For me, did Nyck de Vries deserve to keep his seat? Probably. I think that, it's been 10 races. It is on the savage side of things. Yuki Tsunoda has had a few decent results, although a lot of them we have spoken about just outside the points. So if you were to look at it at face value, it's not like Sonoda is raking in loads of points and Nyck de Vries isn't. But that being said, we also discussed this, and there's not really much to lose for Red Bull, AlphaTauri to get rid of de Vries and put someone else in, because realistically, Nyck de Vries needed to enter that team and start beating Yuki Tsunoda. That was what he had to do. He has to show that potential in a team that we know can be incredibly savage. That is just the way the Red Bull Driver Academy has always worked. That's always been the way. Savage, perform, or get out. Look, they've got Daniel Ricciardo in the wings. Perhaps they want to start measuring just how good Yuki Tsunoda is as well, and
absolutely,
perhaps start to maybe warm up that seat for him eventually at Red Bull. Who knows? Does Danny Ric just enter the team and start smashing Yuki Tsunoda? That's another question we're going to have to wait for the answer for. Did he deserve to keep his seat? The emotional side of me says yes, but he also did nothing to say that he should keep that seat.
And this is an insane thing to say, but 28 years old in Formula One as a new boy is actually quite old. That will be part of Red Bull's thinking, I'm sure, as well. It's not even like, give him 2-3 more years. Like, look at Yuki Tsunoda. He got more time, but he was 20 when he came in. Whereas Nyck de Vries doesn't have time on his side, and he went in there to fill a seat. I wonder if Nyck de Vries actually came in to be the benchmark for them to assess Yuki Tsunoda, and it's not actually worked out. Nyck de Vries had a bit of a shocker, and I think that is the main thing that you said, that the reason this has been done is so they put Daniel Ricciardo in, and then Yuki Tsunoda can actually be the one that they benchmark.
Yeah,
because a fascinating thing that we've not even mentioned, I imagine a lot of people haven't even thought about yet, but Sergio Perez is not delivering. Daniel Ricciardo comes in, Yuki Tsunoda absolutely annihilates him every race. They might go on then, Yuki, you can have Checo's seat. You never know with Red Bull, this is the thing. Or the other side, Daniel Ricciardo comes in, he's amazing, and they go, well, actually, we think Daniel Ricciardo is going to do a better job than what Checo's doing at the moment. I think, in a weird way, this also makes Sergio Perez sweat a bit, because they're basically doing the first piece of the puzzle to assess two more drivers in this Red Bull program, and we know how it works. You start there, and the whole point of it is that you hopefully eventually get to the Red Bull team.
Let's not forget, here is a backmarker team.
Yeah,
it is
terrible.
Not good. This is like him joining Minardi from many, many years ago. This is like him joining a Williams from a few years ago.
They're last, are they not?
They are doing terribly. It's going to be very interesting to see if he jumps in the car, and actually it's not as bad of a car as those two drivers are saying, and there's all kinds of different storylines that need to be unfolded, and I can't wait to see how that goes. Question from Sepp_Ajax. Why doesn't Nyck de Vries at least even deserve half a season to prove himself? Isn't it unfair that he's getting axed because of his struggles in a car that is rarely worthy of points anyways? And I think one thing that you said, Tommy, there was that he's 28 years old. This isn't a development curve in terms of maturity or whatever. He should be, as he's proved, Formula E champion. He's driven lots of different disciplines of cars. He had to jump in straight away and perform, and that's the problem of being that old. There isn't lots of time for him to develop and so on and so forth, just from nature's perspective.
And he had to beat Yuki. Yeah, he had to come in and beat Yuki.
He had to beat Yuki. He hasn't. He's made a lot of mistakes. He's crashed, he's spun. And also, on the other side to it, as much as it's great that Red Bull have two teams, it also means that they can have this revolving door a lot more than other teams that only have one team and two seats. So they can play around a little bit. AlphaTauri, shocking. Right, let's try Daniel Ricciardo. Let's maybe try Liam Lawson. Who knows what's going to happen? As I said earlier, I don't think Nyck de Vries showed any kind of promise for Red Bull to go, you know what, let's give him a full season and see if he can develop.
It is really brutal, but you have to be incredibly savage and go, at 28 years old, is Nyck de Vries going to be the next big thing? And the answer is no, unfortunately. Max Verstappen is 3 years younger than Nyck de Vries and has, 42 wins now under his belt.
Does that suggest that Red Bull are genuinely looking at Yuki Tsunoda as the next driver to take over from Perez? Because how I see that is that Daniel Ricciardo coming in as a measurement is much better because he has Grand Prix under his belt, he's a race winner, he knows how to perform. Whereas if you bring Liam Lawson into that seat, there's no guarantee that Lawson's going to be amazing. He might well be, but that is, again, a sort of a stab in the dark for Red Bull. Whereas they know what Daniel Ricciardo can do.
Yeah.
They know if he's underperforming by just looking at the telemetry and so on and so forth. So they have a measurement scale there for Danny Ric.
Yeah, and this is where Yuki has to step up and deliver. Daniel Ricciardo going in is an experienced Formula One driver that they can compare with Yuki, even though, he's not done the season or driven that car, but it's still a benchmark.
Now, let's not forget also as well the very savage podcast interview that Helmut Marko had where he spoke about disagreeing with Christian Horner about drivers, and it was Nyck de Vries that was the disagreement between those two, is the most recent one that he mentioned. And clearly, Helmut Marko has probably looked at that and gone, okay, no, all right, let's get rid of him.
Yeah, did I not say when we were discussing that actually Helmut Marko probably does want to fire him because it makes him look like I know the right thing to do here, and it has proved it. But then I guess the fact that Christian was actually the one this time that didn't want him, that was brutal. Surely Nyck de Vries then, when he heard that news, this isn't going well for me.
He saw the sharks starting to patrol around him. Next question, Fitzsimmons_Joe1. Genuinely, what's the point? The car isn't particularly good, and it will take Daniel Ricciardo a while to get used to the car, and then it will almost be the end of the season. I think it would make more sense to keep de Vries until the end of the season and then evaluate him then. But that's the crucial thing. They're done evaluating him. They've given him 10 races. Yeah. He had to jump in. He had to perform. He didn't. They don't want to give him 2-3 years to start developing. They've already done that with Yuki Tsunoda. They don't need another driver to start the development phase where Yuki was and where it was mistakes and this this, that, and the other, and the fact we keep saying his age as well, that's not what they need. They need a Daniel Ricciardo in there potentially to, as we said, measure, benchmark, and then see if Yuki's the GOAT or if Daniel Ricciardo deserves the seat back to Red Bull. The fact that he swallowed his pride a little bit, he's going to go back to quite literally a backmarker team, and if he starts to perform again, other teams might sit up and take notice and go, okay, that was just a blip in his career. Let's not write off Danny Ric as well. He's not just there to be a tool in Red Bull's measuring process, but I think it does show that they're looking at Yuki.
I mean, AlphaTauri's season is terrible. The car is not very good. Maybe as well, having a more experienced driver like Daniel Ricciardo in that seat, he could help develop them and push them forward as a team as well.
Right, next question, at Keys_cornerlists. Do you think Ricciardo will do significantly better than De Vries? Because it seems to me that the car is really awful, and considering Ricciardo didn't do particularly well at McLaren, besides the Monza win, I have doubts he'll do well now. All right, I'm going to go out on a whim here right now and say that Daniel Ricciardo will do as good as Sonoda, if not slightly better, for the rest of the season.
Oh, that's interesting. I've not really thought about that in my head. It's really difficult because when I try and think how we'll be against Sonoda, I think this is exactly why Red Bull are doing it and kind of answers the question why they're doing it, is because we can't tell at the start of the year if Yuki was the absolute GOAT and that AlphaTauri was awful and him actually finishing 11th was him dragging that car to where it shouldn't be, or the AlphaTauri could be better with a couple of better drivers in there. So I will say that Daniel Ricciardo comes in there and matches Sonoda, maybe beats him on the odd occasion where, you know, we have seen Yuki still have those moments where he gets a little bit too, the rookie Yuki Tsunoda comes back where he's a bit hot-headed and things like that. Oh, I just can't wait for Hungary now. It's going to be like one of those things that's just really fascinating to watch, because AlphaTauri haven't been fascinating to watch because they're normally just washed at the back. It's going to be another interesting narrative that plays out through the season of how well Ricciardo does against Yuki.
Right, final question, at Chaba Lutra. Will Danny only be a 6-month replacement? I think so, and I think he can be a sort of a mentor for Yuki too. Do you guys think he's a suitable option for Red Bull's future? Do I think Danny's going to be a 6-month replacement? I mean, of course, he's not coming back, I think, just for half a year and going to be like, right, I'm off now. That's kind of, quenched my thirst. I'm now just going to go chill for the rest of my life. He's going to come back, I think, with the bit between his teeth. I think that's the phrase. And he's going to be fighting for his survival in Formula One. Like, Danny has half a season to prove that he still belongs in Formula One. I think he'll do all right.
He has to show that he can do it. This is as much of a rehearsal for Daniel Ricciardo. This could be the chance to end up not only back in Formula One, but in that Red Bull that everyone is saying is, an unbelievable car. They've won 11 races in a row now, which is the record.
I think we both thought that he wasn't going to swallow his pride. He did, and he's back. So that is that. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to this emergency podcast to talk about Danny Ricciardo returning to Formula One, replacing Nyck de Vries at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm excited because I love Daniel Ricciardo with every fibre of my being, and I cannot wait to see how he does. Right, we'll see you very soon for another piece of content. Bye!
Bye!